Called to order at 6:04. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We'll start off with roll call. Board Member Ayala Quintero.
Present.
Vice President Holohan.
Present.
Board Member Olson.
Here.
Board Member Wilson.
Here.
And I am here. Is there a motion to approve the agenda with flexibility?
So moved.
Sorry. Okay, thank you. We'll move. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, we'll call for the vote.
President Rendler, who moved?
Patty.
And second?
And Candy.
Candy.
Thank you.
You second.
Second?
You second.
Second what?
You second. I think. Did you second the motion?
Somebody did.
Second.
Thank you.
Oh, it was Jeanette. I'm sorry. Consuelo, did you send it?
I'm still, yeah, it went out.
Voted? Oh, I didn't see it. I haven't seen it. Yeah, I keep doing it. If I refresh it, I don't even know how to do that.
Missing two. Motion carried, 5-0.
And I went a little out of order. Could you please stand? We're going to do the pledge. Hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. During closed session, the board unanimously took action to accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the final settlement agreement regarding student 2025-2026-4236. Services rendered pursuant to this agreement shall be funded by special education administrative funds. In closed session, the board unanimously took action to motion to not extend the pending expulsion hearing as required verbally by the parents of student 2025-2026-0501. And tonight we have two presentations, starting with Mr. Jamie Courts presenting the local indicators. Welcome, Jamie.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Cabral, and Cabinet. It's nice to see you all. We haven't seen each other since graduation, so it's nice to see you on this summer evening. The purpose of this presentation tonight is to fill a California Department of Education requirement to present information on local indicators at a public board meeting on the same night as the LCAP is approved. So here we are tonight. The first thing that I want to do is just give everybody a quick reminder of what local indicators are. If you go to the website, anybody in the public can actually see the California School Dashboard. Many of these areas are common things like the test scores, absenteeism, suspension rates, and everything, and those are easily quantifiable by numbers. However, the state says that some of the information that we need to report publicly needs to be in the basis of surveys. In other words, we just need to ask people what they think. So those areas are the areas of basics, teacher instruction, materials and facilities, implementation of academic standards, parent and family engagement, local climate survey, and access to a broad course of study. So I've been told I have 6 minutes to give this report, so I'm going to talk fast. Many of you are familiar with this presentation. It's pretty much the same exact presentation that we give on this date every year. I try to spiff up the slides a little bit, and it's obviously based on this year's information. The first area is in the area of basic information. Oh, I'm sorry. To be compliant by the state of California, you need to do three things. Number one, you need to collect the information via surveys and so forth. So we've done that. We did that this spring. Number two, you need to present that at a public meeting. So we're doing that today on the same day as we present the LCAP. And number three, I need to upload the information to the the CA School Dashboard website, which we'll do on time. And that's basically what renders what you see on the public-facing website. So let's start with Priority 1 Basics. Let's see here. This is a compliance area. And in this area, it looks at several things. Number one, are our classes staffed with properly credentialed teachers? Number two, do all students have access to standards-aligned instructional material? And number three, are there identified instances where facilities are not in good repair? And in all three of these areas, they show compliant. So when you go to the school dashboard for 26, it's going to show compliant in all of these areas. The second area is the implementation of state standards. These are standard questions that the state has all of us ask, so that we don't really have an option in what we ask our staff. So the areas that are looked into are professional development, the alignment of instructional materials, and programs that support the implementation of standards. So you'll see on these slides that the areas that are the strongest and in full development are language arts and math, obviously, because those are the programs that the adoptions that have been in place for the longest. The ones that our staff say need some more development and more professional development are in the areas of science and social studies. So those are the areas that we don't do as much professional development as we do on the other areas. So that's the reason why we give these surveys, is so our staff and our community can show us or give us information on what we need to do a little bit better. So the same thing for our alignment of instructional materials. This one's a little bit better, which means that the materials that we have and are using in our classrooms are more aligned. And finally, this one is in the area of policies and programs to support implementation, including walkthroughs and teacher pairing. So most of our walkthroughs are focused on English language arts and math, obviously, but our staff says that we could also do a little bit better focusing on ELD, science, and social studies. So again, this is information that is given to all of our sites to consider and improve upon. The next area, this is in the area of parent engagement. In parent engagement, we sent a survey out to all parents this spring, and I'm sure most of you, if you have children in the school district, you've seen this survey come out from the school district and from the sites. This survey is given out to parents every spring. This measures key areas such as welcoming all families in the school community, communicating effectively, speaking up for every child, and collaborating with the community. On the slides that we've given you, you can see the actual percentages that came out. So you can see some of our strengths are in the area of policies and programs reflecting respect, valuing diversities of the families and community. Also, walking into schools, environments that are inviting and a place where parents feel welcome. Students feeling that they're treated fairly with their race, cultural backgrounds, and feeling welcome at PTAs. There's actually kind of an interesting paradox because in some cases where families are saying there's excellent communication, in the same tone they're saying that better communication could be done when it comes from teachers and staff. So that's where the nuance of these surveys go. Good communication for regular weekly bulletins and announcements from the sites, but better communication needs to be done from the staff and so forth. Grades. Similarly, appreciation for existing opportunities that we have, but also a desire for deeper involvement in the decision-making process for like school site council, ELAC, APAC, and so forth. Another paradox. Appreciation for the environment and safety. Parents feel that the atmosphere is inviting and inclusive, but also a call for stronger and enhanced facilities and better handling of bullying incidents. And lastly, on this survey, it showed strong praise for dedicated staff and rigorous academic standards, but at the same time, a request for more granular feedback on grades and extracurricular opportunities. So this is what these surveys are really helpful for. You have the big picture, but it breaks it down into more granular needs from the community. This fourth area is in the area of school climate, and this is given to all students in grades 3 through 12. Through Kelvin. Many of you are familiar with the little dog that pops up on the Chromebooks for our students when they're in Google, and it's pretty easy for the kids to click on the cute little dog and answer some survey questions regarding school climate. This is done several times throughout the school year, but we capture the student responses in the May survey. So this comes in the area of physical safety, discipline, academic goals, behavioral supports, school climate, and culture. So you can kind of see how this pans out. Interestingly, physical safety was the one that the school students ranked highest, and you can also see discipline, academic goals, and coming down you have lower scores in behavioral supports, school climate, and culture. These are the same things. The diagnostic takeaway that we kind of brought together was safety is a strength. Students feel recognized or universally recognized that the physical boundaries and rules that are set by the district are well communicated, they're fair, and for the most part, they're upheld within the school system. Peer culture is the frontier. That's kind of silly. The lowest indicators point directly to student respect and behavioral recognition. These are areas that are known and kind of pop up from year to year that are continually worked on through PBIS, MTSS, and things like that. Things that come up regularly is the equity gap that continues to persist, and it's continually something that we're working on as a school district. I want to remind everybody that all of this information is broken down by school. So every school gets their own results. It's broken down by grade level, and it's broken down by student group. For example, ethnicity, special ed, English learners, and so forth. So this is a really good tool for us to be able to look at and dig deeper in a granular way. The final area is broad course of study. This is a focus on access. Do all of our student groups have equal access to the same broad course of study and same broad course of classes as each other? So in general, our secondary schools, our high schools and middle schools are saying that in general, yes, our students are having equal access to the same broad course of study as each other, but we're seeing more of a gap at the elementary schools. So what does that mean? What that means is there's a perception that English language learners and students with disability in general are not having the same access to the broad course of studies as their non-disabled peers or the other students. And the reason for that is because there's scheduling issues. Students have to go to their ELD classes. Students are pulled out for services. Students are pulled out for IEPs. Students have to take remedial classes and credit recovery classes. So while those students are having to take those courses, they're not able to take the electives and the higher level courses as well. So those are the barriers. Some of the areas of improvement that we're recommending is master schedule flexibility, a deeper look at CTE pathways and career opportunities, and vertical articulation, which is communication between our elementaries and middles and high schools for these types of things. So I think I went 1 minute over 6 minutes, and that brings us to our final slide, which is a thank you and any questions that you may have.
I have a couple questions. Oh, did you, Melissa? Did you have a question? Were you? Oh, okay. I have a couple questions. First of all, maybe I should know this, but where is priority 4 and 5? It skipped from.
So that's a good question. Priority 4 and 5 are the other state measures, which are academics, your behavior.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, those are the
Okay.
other priorities. So,
Okay.
so they're just numbered differently.
And also, I was interested to know the surveys, the Kelvin surveys. What is the average percentage of students that fill these out every time? Like, do you have an average?
It's, I don't want to throw out a number, so
Okay.
I'd have to get back to you on that. Yeah.
Okay. And then my other final question is, how can we help some of these numbers on these surveys go up, like towards a 5? How can we, what can we do?
So my generic response to that is that we're looking at all of the responses from every student, grade 3 through 12, mushed together in one number. What you really need to do is you need to break it down from school to school and grade level to grade level.
And then you can see
yeah,
where you
then
need
you can
to-
really start seeing trends and so
Right.
forth. So that's kind of the pro and con of when you're looking at district numbers, you're mushing everybody together and you're kind of trying to draw conclusions on one giant number, where what we really need to do is break it out.
Do we have any way to do that? Is that
Yes, it is broken out. So every site, like, as I mentioned, has their own data for the family engagement and the school climate. They have their own data. So
I would love to see that if we could.
We absolutely can.
I would love to see that.
Yep.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I had a question. How many families are there? You said there was.
How many responded to the survey? Just under 900 responded to the survey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that's over 90% of our. Oh, I see. Got it.
Yeah,
Got it.
You
That's pretty good.
Christine can kind of chime in. It's a number. It's kind of a normal number that we get on this survey. Parents get a lot of surveys throughout the school year, and I think several had just come out just before this. So obviously we would like way more, but 800 to 900 is about average for this survey at this time.
So I was concerned by the low parent score under feeling welcome at PTA and PTO parent group meetings. What can be done about that, do you think?
That's another one where I think it'd be important to break out from school to school.
Okay, right.
You know, is this are there certain schools where we can do a better job of inviting and being, more transparent or communicating, or some better? And that provides us an opportunity to have schools that have a really high score to work with the schools that have lower scores to give ideas. Mm-hmm.
And then those, the last scores you went over that were
the broad course of study?
K through 6. Mm-hmm. So 6th is middle school. Mm-hmm. So why it seems like they're very different. Why would that be the way to break down?
That's good. That's a good question. The reason why we have to do it that way is because that's how the state asks us to report it out. Typically, it would make more sense to do K-5, 6 through 12. But when we report it to the state, it's K-6, 7 through 12.
Because K through 5 doesn't have near as many options that they might not know to take advantage of as middle school, right?
Yeah.
Electives, so forth.
In this survey, it's given to staff members, department leads, administrators, and in many ways, it's a perception survey. So this is how, you know what I'm saying? So it's perceived that these kids are always missing whatever because they're being pulled out for services or this or that. So so that's the perception. So but perception is reality. So it's important for us to understand that, maybe parents feel that way. Maybe the kids feel that way. So it's important for us to understand that.
Well, maybe you could work with the state on changing that.
I'll work on that.
Well, there's some districts that go through 6. That's probably why.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Kortz.
Thank you.
Now it's time for the annual budget presentation. Kirtan, are you ready? Kirtan's always ready.
Good evening, Board, Superintendent Cabral, Cabinet, and Community. I'll be presenting 26-27 fiscal year adopted budget. So we'll start with May revision. So it just came out last month from the state. Here are the few most important highlights. So we had a historic 43% increase in special education base rate from the state, which went up from $917 per funded ADA to $1,340, which is amazing. Prop 98 minimum guarantee is revised upward over the 3-year budget window by $6.4 billion compared to January proposal. Funded statutory COLA went up to 2.87. They also added additional augmentation on COLA of 1.44% to pay for maximum of 14 weeks of pregnancy disability leave with full pay. And they also revised one-time student support and PD block grant from $2.8 billion in January to $5 billion, so almost doubled it. Again, that's still one time, but again, it's almost doubled. This is our seatbeds enrollment for last 3 years with ADA and budget year and the 2 out years. So as you can see, we're still losing students. Our ADA percentage is kind of stabilizing at 92-93%. So in 26-27, we're estimating 18,899 students, 100 less than current year. And then our ADA at 17,577, which I'm keeping flat for the next 2 years, which is at 93%. Current year, we're at 92.9, so that's a fairly attainable goal. This is just a little summary of our LCFF funding from current year to the projected budget year. So we're going up from $257.5 million to $265.8 million. That's about $8.3 million increase. This is a budget highlight for our school district. Again, COLA is a 2.87, augmentation of 1.44. The increase in LCFF funding is due to the COLA and our stable UPP rate. UPP is our low-income, homeless, EL population. Special education funding is projected to increase for our district by approximately $6 million. And our district will meet its legally required 3% reserve balance. This is our component of ending fund balance for next fiscal year. So on the unrestricted side, we're estimating $50,000 for revolving cash. Non-spendables is $1.7 million, which is our prepaid and inventoriable assets. We have committed $3.1 million for textbook adoption. Our 3% reserve for economic uncertainty is $11,082,000. And we have a assigned balance of lottery of $3,092,000. And we also estimate $43.9 million of restricted fund balance, which is our grants and entitlements, things like that. So this is our combined general fund multi-year projection. So we have our current year estimated, starting at $90 million, ending at $69 million. So we're deficit spending about $21 million. Next fiscal year, though, we're deficit spending $6 million, so we're improving. The year after, 27-28, we're down to $2.2 million deficit spending, and the third year out, we're finally in surplus mode, $2.8 million. So a little light at the end of the tunnel. But we'll see. It depends on how the state's economic condition is by then. These are some major assumptions. So you see COLA at 2.3% current year, 2.87 next year, and it slowly grows up to 3.3 and then kind of drops down to 3.09. But again, that will change depending on how the state is doing financially. Enrollment, we're keeping flat at 18,899. ADA, we're keeping flat at 93%. As you can see, 92.9 is current year, so it's fairly easy to get to 93. Our funded ADA, though, it's dropping. So it's a 3-year average. So it's going from 17,900 to 17,600 by the third year out. Our UPP rate is staying fairly flat, 66.7 current year, 66.64 third year out, which increases our LCFF funding, so that's always good. STRS stays flat at 19.1%. PERS is kind of dropping down. I think just based on the stock market, they made some good money with investments, so they're reducing their rates, which reduces our expenditure, so that's good. Next steps. So June 30th, that's the governor's deadline to sign the state budget. Then on or before August 15th, we have to do 45-day budget revision if needed. I can imagine we'll be doing that unless something drastically changes. And September 8th, I'll be bringing in our unaudited actuals to the board for approval. Thank you. Any questions?
It's looking better.
Yes, third year out, it's looking better.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anybody have anything? No? Thank you, Kirtan.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Public hearing on Redlands Unified School District's 2026-2027 Education Protection Account EPA requirements. Is there anybody here that would like to speak about this? Nope. Okay, the hearing is now closed. We're going to have community input for agendized items. The Board of Education values the perspectives and participation of our community members. Public comment provides an important opportunity for individuals to share their views on district matters. The board encourages comments, feedback, and input from all voices in the community, including those who may have differing opinions and perspectives. The California Office of the Attorney General asked us to share that in their view, matters pertaining to specific identifiable students or any group of students should remain private to the extent possible. If you have a complaint about an employee or student matter, please utilize the appropriate complaint procedure. Contact Dr. Rudy Wilson, Assistant Superintendent of Compliance, who can assist you with filing any such complaint. As a reminder, not all speech is free from consequences, and since this is the board's meeting in public, where minors may be present, we encourage all participants to conduct themselves in a civilized, non-threatening manner. Thank you for your cooperation and for contributing to a civil and student-focused discussion. Members of the public may address the board on matters within its jurisdiction by submitting a completed registration card to the clerk or designated staff member prior to the start of public comments on agendized items. When called, speakers may proceed to the podium, state their name and trustee area, and speak for the allotted time. The amount of time will be announced by the board president before the first speaker begins and will not exceed 3 minutes. Consuelo, how many speakers do we have?
We have one with 3 items.
All right, you get 3 minutes.
Greg Britton.
Welcome, Greg.
Thank you. One speaker, what the heck is going on here?
It's summer.
The LCAP stuff was, I think, almost emblematic of what's going on in the schools. Is the state imposes these statutory requirements, you prepare reports, you conduct surveys, but does any of that lead to improvement of results? The last meeting, there was a question about whether you were going to extend and continue the YMCA as a provider, and apparently there was dissatisfaction with the board with the services that they have been providing. But based on the agenda for tonight, it looks like they're going to get a social promotion, and notwithstanding their poor performance, they're going to get their contract renewed. And the same kind of thing is happening with the schools, that we see year after year declining academic performance. We see, and I've brought it up before, that only 3% of students, of high school seniors, can pass the citizenship test, which is a pretty easy test. The polling data shows that younger you are, the less you either love the country and the more you dislike the country. The more recent students in high school and in college. Now, certainly, when you get to somebody who's 18 or 20, their academic abilities, their attitudes, their outlook on life, their work ethic, all those kind of things are not just the schools. They're the parents and the students themselves. But you guys get the kids for a huge block of time. And you get a lot of money for it. Since 1980, after adjusting for inflation, per student spending has increased by 154%. Has education improved significantly or at all over that time? Well, all the indications would say no. I'm going to talk about later in some of my remarks is that the employers don't want to hire young people. They'd rather pay more to hire an older worker they think is more reliable and has a better work ethic than younger workers. And again, that's not totally you guys, but it's part of it. Where are they first learning a work ethic? A lot of it is in school. So you go through the statutory procedures and you have to do that, but that's not a substitute for progress in doing the things that you're really supposed to be doing, of academics, preparing them to be citizens, and transmitting the history and culture of the country on to succeeding generations. Briefly on 12E, asking for a tax increase. Not a big deal, but not a big amount, you are getting plenty of money, and you don't deserve or need more money. The issue is not more money. It's better managing what you do have. In the private sector, it's not about turning in reports. It's about the results you do. Do you provide the services or products that your customers will voluntarily continue purchasing? 13A. I am very concerned. So not only is the schools trying to do, and not doing a very good job of it, of the academics, as the test scores and all the data that we've talked about, here I have and many others have. Now you want to take on an even more complex and difficult task of mental health, when you can't do the easier stuff very well. It also opens up a tremendous opportunity to improperly influence the children in indoctrinating them and how they think, how they feel about things. There was some discussion on this when this came up before when I was here about whether the parents are going to be notified, and whether if there's not going to be notified, is that going to be brought to the superintendents or the principals or both attention to make sure that exemption is really justified and we're cutting the parents out of what's happening with their children, because they're the ones that are primarily responsible for their children. we hire you guys to try to help in the process of raising and educating the children. So I would ask you to keep a very close eye on that if you go down that path at all. I've talked about discipline before. And, of course, the descriptions of the discipline is there's no way that staff or other students, parents, members of the community could evaluate whether the students are being appropriately disciplined for what they actually did compared to other students. But one case that particularly caught my attention in this agenda is there's a student who was expulsion. Of course, it's not expulsion, it's a suspension at best. Is they made terroristic threats to staff or property. And the punishment or the consequences for that is expulsion for the rest of the second semester of 25-26, the one that's over now. And a suspended, quote-unquote, expulsion for the first semester of 26-27. So what you've taught that student is there are no consequences to his or her bad behavior. So not only do you're not serving the students that are behaving and trying to get an education, and staff is trying to help them get an education, you are not serving, you're ill-serving the misbehaving student by teaching them that you can get away with bad behavior. Because eventually, if that continues, they're going to run into the long arm of the law, and they're going to find out that there are consequences to bad behavior. And it's far better to teach the lesson earlier in the process. And that is all I have on agenda items.
Thank you, Greg. Is that it? Mm-hmm. Thank you. Moving on to board committee reports. Anybody have a committee report they would like to report on? No. No? Okay. Mr. Cabral.
I do not have a report.
No? No report. Okay. On to business services consent items. Mr. Hill, any changes or additions?
Thank you, President Rendler. No changes or additions tonight for business services.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve business services consent items as listed under 10A through 10M?
I'll move.
Second. Any discussion?
I was happy to see the rearrangement from the IPC contract now, and I just wanted to guarantee, just publicly go over that on the page 18 of the agenda, that I wanted to just confirm with Jason that where it says it shall be billable in 2 equal installments and invoiced, that means they're going to go through your department every time, right?
Correct. So it'll go through the typical billing procedures.
Pathway and not an auto debit.
Yeah, the county is no longer involved in the entire process.
Okay. Oh, good. So yeah, they were it was going through them from us. Okay. And then the one thing I had on the terms of the agreement, I thought that it says that this under G, it says a supplemental agreement may be renewed or extended by written instrument executed by both parties. Would that necessarily mean board approval each year, or does that just mean the department can approve the contract without board approval?
What that says is it can be approved without it, but we'll bring it, because we treat this like a typical contract, so we'll bring it back through every year. I
would like that. I would like it to say and board approval, or just make sure that it does come back every year so that people are aware.
Yeah.
The other comment I had on that particular item was just I'd like to hear updates throughout the year, perhaps from, I guess it would be Lisa. It seems like the HR department utilizes the trainings and workshops primarily, to hear some updates on how that usage is going to make sure that the cost is worth
it.
The services.
Okay.
Something else I wanted to say was regarding the bike agreement. I had some conversation regarding this. I understand that it makes it easier with a little bit more flexibility to not have to delineate every service that's going to become of it. But maybe if we had some more broader constraints, as maybe not down to, like, understand if you get yourself backed into a corner with, like, well, we said this, and this exactly, and then you want to deviate from the plan, that makes it difficult because it's already been, like, signed in an agreement one way, and then you think it's better to do it a different way. But maybe with some type of more broad, like, at least X amount goes towards this, or at least this amount goes toward that, so we just don't feel like we're signing away 20 grand to, and then just trust the process.
What item number is that?
C, the bike agreement. The open
But,
piece.
yeah, what she's referring to is we have a not-to-exceed agreement. Generally, when you have a not-to-exceed agreement, then when services are rendered throughout the year, the company invoices us through the typical system, and then we pay that. And the reason why you see a not-to-exceed is because we might have fewer trainings than we need, more trainings, and it's flexibility. What I believe you're asking for is some description of some of those services listed in the agreement, which is easy to do.
On the title of the contract, it says for items over $55,000. So did we just have the wrong title there? It says contract for consulting agreements over $55,000. So
No, that's a standard contract. So what you're looking at is a standard district consultant agreement, and we use that standard agreement with our outside vendors.
5,000. I think that's the number.
this says 55,000, right?
I think that's a dollar sign.
Oh, is that a dollar sign?
I think so.
Oh, is that
so
what that
tiny.
is? Oh, I said 55,000. How come you didn't correct me?
5,000.
Okay, I
Just
thought
saying,
my eyes
you're
are
looking
reading
at
that
the
as the
standard
5.
contract.
Okay.
It's all that is unrelated to this specific of this
That
vendor.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
It seems like those still under statement of work should be attached, that would at least give an idea of what kind of services.
Yeah. The reason it's like this is in the past, what we do is when we have we need training and or some of our employees were injured on a bike, then we render training to them after they've been injured. Sometimes we don't know that we need it, and when that happens, we can initiate that right away. So this has been new in the last couple of years. We didn't use bike training in the past, but we've realized in the last couple of years that some of our security guards need to be trained, and so we provide that whenever it's needed. We may not even use this contract this year. It just depends on the situations that occur at the school sites, and if we believe we need it, we initiate it.
I see. That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion? All right, we'll call for the vote.
Motion carried, 5-0.
Okay, and I apologize. I said that was item 11. Item 10, and it was actually 11, so I have renumbered all mine. We're moving on to business services action items. Mr. Hill, any changes or additions?
No changes or additions tonight.
Do you have a motion to adopt the Redlands Unified School District 2026-2027 Local Control and Accountability Plan?
Yes, move them to
Second.
approve.
Second.
Candy.
All right, any discussion?
I'd like to thank the committee and everyone who participated in that for all the hours. I really appreciate that, and staff as well. Great job. Thank you.
Anything else?
Page is the LCAP on. Let me find it. I don't have it flagged on 121. I thought I had it flagged here. Yeah, I appreciate all of the work too. I just would like next time to see our goals. Like goal number 1 is regarding a positive learning environment, which I think is a fantastic goal, and I agree with it as one of the goals. But I think number 1 goal should be reading, and number 2 should be math, and they should be in alignment with our board goals. So I would like, hopefully next year, to see the goals be in alignment.
Any other discussion? Okay, we'll call for the vote.
Motion carried, 5-0.
Is there a motion to adopt the annual proposed budget for the 2026-27 fiscal year?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Melissa.
That's Candy.
I keep hearing it over here. All right, any discussion?
Once again, just thanking staff, Kraton and his staff, for everything that they've done and the direction of Mr. Hill.
Motion carried, 5-0.
Adopt, I'm sorry. Do you have a resolution to adopt, a motion to adopt resolution number 32, 2025-2026, acknowledgement of due diligence and authorization to commit funds, indicating there will be projected reserves available in the general fund as of June 30th, 2027.
Move. Second.
Melissa, that was you? Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Candy. Any discussion? All right, call for the vote.
Motion carried, 5-0.
Is there a motion to adopt resolution number 33, 2025-2026, the Education Protection Account, EPA, requirements and spending determination?
I'll move.
Second.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Jeanette. Any discussion? We'll call the vote.
Motion carried, 5-0.
I have a motion to approve resolution number 34 to establish the special tax rates for fiscal year 2026-2027 for Community Facilities District, or CDF, number 2001-1, an existing community facilities district formed under the Melrose Community Facilities Act of 1982 and Government Code Section 53340.
So moved. Second.
Second.
Melissa.
Melissa. Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Melissa. Any discussion? Nope. Call the vote.
The motion is carried, 5-0.
Do you have a motion to approve resolution number 35 to establish the special tax rates for fiscal year 2026-2027 for Community Facilities District number 2006-1, an existing community facilities district formed under the Melrose Community Facilities Act of 1982 and Government Code Section 53340?
Move. Second.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Patty. Any discussion? Call the vote.
Motion carried, 5-0.
I have a motion to approve resolution number 36 to establish a special tax rates for fiscal year 2026-2027 for Community Facilities District number 2016-1 and existing Community Facilities District formed under the Melrose Community Facilities Act of 1982 and Government Code Section 53340.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Patty. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Motion carried, 5-0.
Is there a motion to approve resolution number 37 to establish the special tax rates for fiscal year 2026-2027 for Community Facilities District number 2021-1 and existing Community Facilities District formed under the Melrose Community Facilities Act of 1982 and Government Code Section 53340? I'll move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call the vote.
Motion carried, 5-0.
I have a motion to approve resolution number 38 to establish the special tax rates for the fiscal year 2026-2027 for Community Facilities District number 2024-1 and existing Community Facilities District formed under the Melrose Community Facilities Act of 1982 and Government Code Section 53340.
Move. Second.
Melissa, thank you, Patty. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Motion carried, 5-0.
Is there a motion to adopt Redlands Unified School District's 2026-2027 balance in excess of minimum reserves requirement?
I'll move.
Second.
Melissa, thank you, Jeanette. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Motion carried, 5-0.
Do I have a motion to approve new board policy 7310, naming of schools, individual buildings, or facilities, second and final read?
So moved.
I'll second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I had some discussion about that. We're going to talk about the BP first.
Yes, that's one we're on.
Forgive me, but this is my first read of it since I wasn't present at the last meeting. I found this policy, I'm totally in support of it, but I found it to be very redundant, and there was like this whole section here, like number 4 and 5 are all the same as number 1 and 2, except for very, like, if we had just said criteria for naming schools, individual buildings, or facilities. If we had just added that, which include, and also the language, it says presidents or governors. So those are the only differences between this whole page and like this additional whole page. So I feel like we should just, for the sake of not being totally redundant and wordy, we could have just had it all in one section. Do you see what I'm saying? Section 1 and this huge section here is the same thing as this one, as 4 and 5. Mm-hmm.
One section, so number 1 is specific to criteria for naming schools.
Right.
So 4, it's restated because it's just a little bit different because it's naming individual buildings or facilities.
The only difference in the language is that this one part here is presidents or governors.
Because I think it's because we wouldn't name a school after a local person. We would only name it like an individual building. So the criteria are so somebody that's a local civic leader wouldn't be eligible.
Like the mayor or the
Wouldn't be eligible to be named for a school,
Well, that's
but
what
could
it says
for the
here.
building.
It says civic leaders who have been retired from public service under the school namer. So it's in contradiction to what you were just saying.
I guess then transversely would be then presidents or governors wouldn't be able to be named for buildings.
Why not? What's the difference? Why not just combine it all into one section?
There's a distinction between the two because one requires a different process in the AR than would be in the. For naming schools is a community-based process where the naming of a building or an office is not the entire school. So it's just a different process. So it's trying to separate them. So there are some similarities, but there's significantly different is what it's trying to do.
And it looks like there doesn't need to be the 3-year requirement for a building, correct? They don't need to be removed from office.
Well, there's
for
a
the
lot of
3-year requirement.
a lot of contradictions between the AR and the BP, and one is like alive civic leaders. Talks down here about if a community member, like an alive community member, and then here in the AR, it's like they have to be expired or they have to be passed away for a certain number of years. Like here, names, generally they have to be deceased for a minimum period of 5 years. That contradicts our BP, right? Because the BP says they're a live civic leader.
We got to look at a little bit. Let's read it together because there is, if you go to number 1, the first paragraph A says, talk schools may be named for a person and may include presidents, governors, statements, etc. Then when you get to the third, and civic leaders who have been retired from public service for at least 3 years. In addition, schools may be named for geographic locations. If you go to 4A, it says individual buildings or facilities may be named for a person and may include local educators, committee, and civic leaders who have made long-term outstanding contributions to the school district, county, or community, which doesn't reference at all whether they've been retired from public service or geographic location. So it's A is speaking to the criteria to name a school, 1A. 4A is specific to who would qualify, right? So then the process for that, though, is I, which is the same. So it's not, it's repeating it, but it's repeating it because it's talking about a different set of criteria. In other words, paragraph 1A is not the exact same paragraph as 4A.
Oh yeah, I know. There's just slight differences. But so why did we repeat this whole thing? It just seems like it could have been wordsmithed better. Like
naming a school and one's for naming.
it's all the same though.
Buildings.
So it should be like, okay, naming schools, naming buildings, that little blip, and then the criteria applies to all of the above, right? Because this is all the same wording. So I just feel like it's this whole chunk and that whole chunk is the same.
I think I understand you're saying like it could maybe be maybe more efficient, but it doesn't change as a second read. What you're suggesting isn't going to change the end goal, which is that these criteria are going to be required for both of these processes.
I'm just saying.
But I would like to also add that if you number one's the same as number 4 basically, but 5 is not the same as 2, and 3 is not the same as 6. So you can't put it all into one thing.
I think
they're different.
Renaming of schools A and renaming of buildings A, I think they're the same, aren't they? I didn't go word for word.
They're different.
Are they? Use instructional purposes. Very, very similar. It's just.
I think the easy way to look at it is if you're renaming a school, here's your list. If you're renaming a building, here's your list. And it could be separate. That just makes it easier to read, I think.
It just makes it double the length, too.
And I also have a question. So you didn't get the agenda when you were gone?
I did get the agenda, but I didn't read through this policy and able to say my comments on the dais.
Oh, no, well, I'm just saying, you just told me you hadn't read it.
No, I said, I'm sorry for bringing my critique on a second read, but I was not.
You hadn't read it yet. Okay.
I was not here in this seat, and I can't bring my critique when I'm in a different state. So this is my critique on a second read. I would have said it all on a first read. And, I guess we'll talk about that when we get to the AR, but it's like it's always saying that they need to be deceased, which the BP clearly states that they can be alive. So I'm not sure which one we want to go with, but we're going to have to pick one. It says living individuals will not be approved unless under an exceptional process.
For naming schools.
Just in general. Names generally not considered for all, I believe. And it says generally be deceased for a minimum of 5 years.
Where are you looking?
I'm on the AR, but I'm just saying, I know we're not to the AR part, but I'm just saying since we're on the BP, all of the way the language reads on the BP is like a living person, civic leaders, who have been retired. So it's talking about people who are alive, and then when we get to the AR, it's talking about deceased people.
Yeah, that's in the appendix A of the AR.
Look at that right now and make it match.
Well, I think there's a much better chance of knowing a person's character and contributions if they have passed from this world.
A couple of points to clarify. The appendix, where it's stated in the AR, speaks to the process that can be followed, which of course can be like a living document, as far as like we did with. I'm trying to remember which policy we had where we had a committee kind of
The books challenge.
Okay, and second, it does say should. The person should, and then it goes to list, which is, I'm in Appendix A, we're in the AR, just to kind of, as a clarification. Yeah. Those are what the panel or the committee should be using, should, as a guideline, which is different from shall or required or must. It just leaves it open, making it possible that it not be somebody who's deceased.
It really goes on, and generally should be deceased for a minimum period of, it has 5 years.
Oh, where does it say?
It doesn't say generally deceased. It says preference should generally be given to the individual who have been deceased for a minimum.
It's trying to protect the
talking
legacy.
About under 3.
It is not a bad. I'm not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing. I'm saying that it is open-ended enough that it isn't a
So living individuals,
requirement.
Unless through an exceptional process. So what would the exceptional process be for living individuals? We have to make up there'd have to
be something if that's what we want to do. And because the appendix speaks to the process and not necessarily, it's not stated like that in the AR as far as the procedure, the appendix, like you could approve both the BP and the AR with appending, criteria, because what Appendix A is really designed to do is to provide guidance. It's not supposed to be the policy. The AR, which is above that, and the BP are the policy.
Question I have is, where are you looking in the board policy where it says living individuals?
It's just the way it speaks of them, like current civic leaders who have been retired. That means they're still alive.
It says community and civic leaders who have been retired at least from public service for at least 3 years and then have passed away. Or, I mean, you could read it both ways. That they if they just retired yesterday and then they...
Oh, they also, no, it refers to living people. I mean, obviously, it talks about the purposes by the district and the person remains in good standing. So, of course, if they're remaining in good standing, we're assuming they're alive. I mean, the way it reads is like you're alive, clearly. It's not, they would be past tense if it was.
You could also have died in office, and, I mean, you would still have to wait that minimum 1 year period before even having a discussion about it. Yeah.
Well, and then some people's good standing goes away.
No, I think that's what the waiting period is for.
For years.
Well, because some stuff comes
Well,
out.
I mean, as of recent, we've figured out why you don't, you want to wait a good period of time before something comes to light. It gives the public the opportunity to bring things to light.
The idea is to have protections in there, whether you're alive or deceased. If your name becomes persona non grata, there's a way for you to be removed. Yes. Whether alive or deceased.
Any other discussion? Anything else?
The committee, I'm sure you guys will...
Are we still on the BP, though?
Yes. I would like to suggest a different way that we form committees than the traditional way that, for example, like this has. I pulled up a way that a neighboring school district does their committees, and I really like it a lot, actually. I'll just read you a brief portion of one of the policies. The membership of committees shall be X amount, like let's say this is 5 people, 5 amount of members, and shall be appointed pursuant to the following procedure. Each trustee shall be entitled to nominate one person to serve on the committee. Each nominee shall then be submitted for approval to the board and appointed if approved by a board majority. If a nominee is not approved, the trustee making the unsuccessful nomination shall be entitled to nominate a second candidate. If a second nominee from the same trustee is not successfully appointed, then nominations for the candidate shall be open to any trustee until the required amount of members are successfully appointed. This process shall continue until the appointed committee members meet the representative criteria. And I just thought I would throw it out there. It's something that I had seen from a different district in Southern California. I saw that, I thought it was really a good way to make sure that you have proper representation on your committees in your school district. You guys probably aren't interested in, if you're interested in considering something like that, we could just say that we would have a committee and not necessarily say the type of people on the committee. And we could determine that later, how that process is done, and just to have a committee.
I think the whole point of the committee is to remove ourselves from the decision in case there's some sort of bias.
Yeah, we wouldn't be on the committee.
But that's the thing. I think in a situation where you have a split board or, I would say like ours, from what I'm understanding what you're saying is that we each appoint someone, and if, say, hypothetically, we didn't all agree with your decision or mine, then you would get another opportunity. And if we wanted to, we could deny that again, and then we get to decide who appoints that.
This one,
so how does that seem like a fair and equitable?
How does that work?
How would that be
equitable?
A fair representation?
What, equitable? You would have...
You submit the name to the superintendent? Is that what you're talking about?
You would nominate, and then we would vote. That's how they do all of their committees.
The board would vote.
Yeah, and then that way you have committees that are representation of the majority of the board instead of committees that are totally lopsided sometimes. We see that all the time with people who, we don't have an accurate representation a lot of times on our different committees of our community.
And I think that's one of the reasons why a majority of the board shouldn't be able to veto a board member's choice.
Well, it works very well because they have the majority of the board, and then they have
Whoever has the majority would then have control over the committee. That doesn't sound very
you would have
objective.
people that understand and have the same vision for the school district.
I don't think that's appropriate.
How about if we had a list of people interested in being on any committee that we have, like anything that we have where we get committees? Is there a way to do a list, and then as a committee need comes up, this one says it's 3 community members, you would just take the top 3 off the list and ask them if they want to be on this committee, right?
It could probably change each
Every
one.
time, yeah.
Every time would change, I would think, if there's an interest on one particular one.
Why don't we just have it 3 district administrators?
What do we have it, what?
Why don't we just have it like 3 district administrators, like the executive cabinet maybe? I really don't like how committees have historically, since I've been here and been paying attention, they're extremely lopsided and it's not a fair representation. We know that it's not doesn't represent the communities in.
Well, but how can though? If we had a list of anyone interested in being on a committee, they'd be on this list.
And what?
And then it kind of rotates, like, oh, this certain committee, like we're doing a naming.
Well,
of
the problem.
something, so we need 3. So let's pick the top 3 and see if they were interested.
But how can you? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Are you still going? Okay, but my question is I don't know what committee you're talking about. You're saying that it's extremely lopsided, but how is it? Are you suggesting that there has been an unfair advantage given? Because we don't have any control over the committees. I mean, if you're speaking about the superintendent committee, we all had the same opportunity to pick one person, and then anyone else interested was, selected. But I don't think we had an overwhelming response where, tons of people weren't selected and it was overwhelmingly one side versus another. However, I don't see how this is going to be at fault because, namely the superintendent's appointing the committee. So, I don't see how us having influence over this is going to be any better because if that's the case, eliminate the committee altogether if we're going to be appointing someone that we want to make the decision that we want, especially because you're saying that not every board member will be equally representative, but the majority of the board will then have the opportunity to veto a singular board member's or multiple board members' choice. I don't think that's fair.
Well, that's because you're in the minority of the board right now.
Wow.
Right? Would you think it's fair the other way? I
don't think it's fair either way. Mm-hmm. But that's what I'm saying. I don't want to be a part of this. I'm saying the board should remove themselves because this doesn't seem like a fair...
Well, why don't we ask Juan how he was planning on doing the committee? Did you have a plan?
I don't understand why we have to get into this right now.
We're approving this policy, and I don't really... the community members, the students, how many students were opening up to how many people?
According to the way it's written right here, I understand the discussion because in order to establish the board policy, if we're going to change that first paragraph, which describes what that committee is going to look like, then it is pertinent to what we're trying to do. The way it's currently written right now and the way we typically would get community members is we ask and then we get volunteers. It's not generally done by us asking questions to determine what political side they're on, or even how they're. So so even if we do trustee areas, okay, that doesn't necessarily guarantee that it's going to be somebody who's on any majority or minority. The key of this, the way that it's written here, is just to have some unbiased folks look at a recommendation and then determine what they want to carry forth to the board as an agreement of that committee, which ultimately, like this says, the board would have the final decision as to whether or not anything would be named.
And who's naming the committee? You're doing survey? The committee is going to be obtained by survey. Who volunteers?
No, it puts a lot of the burden on you, I would say.
Or me or a team, or if I have a designee, but it's us putting out a parent square, let's say, or this came about because there's a request for an office building at Orangewood High School to be named after the opening principal, the person who opened the school. And that is within, that could fall within this. So I could see for that committee, since it's Orangewood, that there should be the Orangewood community invited. And so that would be an idea where it has nothing to do with necessarily trustee areas or political affiliation. It has to do with Orangewood because that's the school that we're talking about. That is an attempt to get community members who would have some, stake in what's about to happen at their school. That's just an example.
That's good, but we also need the entire district is in charge of Orangewood, so.
I just don't see why the naming of a school or a building would be such a political topic.
I'm not saying it's political. It could be, though. What if someone wanted to name it Donald Trump Building? Can you imagine?
Well, if he's been removed from office for a little bit, then, if that's genuinely a submission.
Could you see how it could get out of hand?
Can I finish speaking?
No, I'm just saying. We all know it could get out of hand.
I understand that, and don't you think that would be a good idea to remove the board from it? If that was the situation in front of us, I think in order to be transparent and to make sure that this is done in the most fair practice, that we remove ourselves from it.
Historically, there's the people who volunteer for committees and who fill out the surveys are not all the same people that are, have their voices heard.
Is that any fault of our own? No.
I didn't say it was anyone's fault. It's just what it is. It is what it is.
So if everyone has an opportunity to serve on that committee, why is that not an accurate representation of the community?
I'm just saying the people who volunteer typically for the committees and do the surveys, they all belong to a certain belief system. Each area was elected by their people, right? And so if her area was elected by her people, then in a majority vote, then she should be able to pick her person on that committee. Same for me, because I'm representing my community, I will pick somebody. So everybody here who's elected, you were elected by a majority of your community, so therefore you get to pick somebody, and then we all get to vote on whether or not that's a good idea or not.
I don't think that's a good idea, because then it would just be us. If it's somebody that's going to be representative of us, then what is the difference between us? This needs to be rather objective.
It's not going to be objective. That's my whole issue with it. So maybe I suggest as a medium, like a compromise, maybe just do like the cabinet, maybe the cabinet members.
Okay, so then if that's the case, so what you're kind of suggesting is that it's not that it's not a fair representation of the community, you just don't like the way it turns out.
No, it's not a fair representation of the community.
But
every single time it's not.
Are you saying that it's because they're not provided the opportunity?
No, I'm not.
Then how is that not fair?
If I could just
Yeah, we're going too long on this.
If I could just, in theory, if there is a majority that sits on the board, whatever a committee recommends, the majority will control that recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it matters. The committee matters.
It's a moot point because we will still be voting on it.
Yeah, ultimately, if the
but you see how that goes.
Oh,
you didn't take the committee's recommendation. You see how
this
that
board
goes.
has shown that they don't always take recommendations. So it's not like it's not something. That
do we need to delineate how this is going to go down, or you're just going to pick them?
What if we put in some terminology such as objective, like some
unbiased, some language?
I like the idea of Orangewood
because
of Orangewood staff. That's their building. I like that part. I think that has
the
committee from Orangewood because it's an Orangewood.
One thing I was going to say is I do see where you say at least 3 other community members and or students. Do you mean 3 community members and 3 students? Or do you mean 3 combined? So maybe it should say 3 other community members or students.
I wouldn't really, to be honest, I wouldn't include students, maybe 1 student, but students are, their brains are still forming, they're still developing, and like naming a building. I don't think I was given a responsibility of naming a building at that age. It's a pretty big responsibility.
Well, and as part of the district is part of a larger community, and I think having community members that speak to this is very important, not just even people at the school, because they come and go. It is kind of representing the community, what the district does.
I was just giving an example of, because Orangewood is what's kind of going to come
On the table.
first. And then if you add a student to a committee, they're just one voice of an entire committee, which I think is
That's
appropriate.
good. Yeah,
because
I agree with
students
that.
Maybe it should say
do
two
have-
community members.
They have a
and one student.
perspective.
We do have, students who can provide a perspective that would be important.
What if we change that to say 2 community members and 1 student? That way, then you still have your 5.
But yeah, that sounds fine.
And we have school board, our student school board members who come here too. So we listen to their opinion when they come.
I
and
didn't
their
say we
voice.
shouldn't listen to them. I said they would provide valuable input, but like 3 students, I think would be a little bit much. I'm just saying maybe 1 student would be a good idea.
I think it just gives the option to possibly have a student. I mean, it doesn't.
Well, the wording should be
No, I
changed.
know, I understand that, but I don't think we're actually going to pick 3 students. But I
Yeah.
think it's at least 3 other community members or student. It doesn't mean that you can't be a student. It doesn't mean you can't be all community members. But I think just the option of being able to have one.
But why don't
is
we
there.
say 2 other community members and 1 student? Would we all agree
What if
on
we
that?
can't get a student? What if they have no interest? I just think the possibility that the possibility is there.
entirely possible.
I think it's just getting a little too detailed when
One
it should be
being
something that the
desired,
superintendent
Not to
decides.
exceed 1
I
student?
would-
How about
Yeah,
that?
3
Desire to have
Sounds good.
Yeah, with a desire. 'Cause
desired
Attempt,
Wouldn't you want the
yeah.
total being odd?
Yeah.
So
in case there's a vote.
So we want to change the top to say what?
Or can we make a decision about the BP, because we're making this?
We're still on that.
edits. No, but we're making changes to the AR.
No. We're on the BP. The board policy, it is the very first paragraph of
On both of them, actually.
the board policy.
Okay.
So if we change it on one, we got to change the other.
So we're just on the board policy. That's the motion. That's the discussion we're having. There is an edit to add 3 community members and/or not to exceed 1 student. Is what I understood.
well, let's see. One being preferred, 1 being a student. or
I
something
would
like
say to include at least 1 student.
that, if possible.
If possible, there you go. To include 1 student if possible. Because students might not want to do it, and then you're stuck.
Yeah,
If
That's-
interested, if available.
that's good.
something.
Okay, we good with that change?
To what paragraph are we adding that to?
The very first one.
Thank you.
And after you write that, can you please read it back so we know what you wrote?
So I just put paragraph 1, edit. To add 2 community members and to include 1 student if possible.
That's accurate.
Yes. Thank you.
And you're selecting the community members? Is that right? Via
Yes.
survey?
Yes. Via
Interest.
interest. But it also says in there, board members may submit names for consideration.
I think that, does that mean for that or for the change on the school? Sorry, does that mean,
Yeah, that's for the naming of the
Oh, you're
school.
right. You're right.
Yeah.
it's kind of weird
You're
that
right.
it's,
It's the second sentence, actually.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay, we ready for the vote? We'll call for the vote.
Motion carried, 5-0.
All right, do you have a motion to approve new administrative regulation 7310, naming of schools, individual buildings, or facilities, the second and final read?
So moved.
Second.
Andy, thank you, Patty. So this one will reflect the same change in that first paragraph?
Yeah,
Consuelo?
I think so.
And regarding this, on number 2, the name submission, there's another, when you go under name submission, there's A and then I, or 1 and 2, right? Numbers 1 and 2 there are totally redundant. So I would recommend, they say the exact same thing. So what I would recommend is under 2AI, I would say submissions for naming a school, comma, individual building, comma, or facility, and then leave the rest, and then remove section 2A2, I guess that is, 2A2, because it's just identical language. It's just totally redundant.
Appendix A and one is Appendix B, so what is the difference? Yeah, they're different. The appendixes are different.
Described how the submission A and
But then you have to go to the appendix. It says go see the appendix, A and B, and they're different.
Well, could it just
They're
say
different.
the appendix, the matching appendix?
Well, you're going to say appendix for this one and appendix this. That's why they're separated.
I don't see B. Where's B?
it's way back here. Over
After
here.
the rubric?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
I don't think that's going to change the length of this, really.
Okay, just a suggestion, that's all. Just seemed like it could have been smithed
I
a little
see.
I
better.
think when you're looking at the two appendixes, then it's going to jumble it all up again. I think that's why it was probably split up in the first place. I know we didn't write this, but
You could have just said under submissions for naming a school, individual building or facility, number 1 could have been see Appendix A for a school and Appendix B for the building, and then you could have had the rest, but whatever. Are we at this time also voting on the appendix? A with it? And A,
I
B
would think so.
is,
I
all
would
goes
think so.
together?
Yeah, I would think so.
On the appendix, that we have
In the
some
rubric.
grammar here that there's periods on every bullet point that should be removed. Bullet points aren't sentences, and they shouldn't have periods at the end of them. So really throughout this, like through most of it, then on the next, on like page 534, the same thing. We've got periods on some of them and then not on others, so that should just be cleaned up.
Either take the bullets off or take the periods off.
Just take
I
the
don't know.
periods off. They're bullet points.
It's an easy edit because
Yeah.
it's just grammar.
Just make sure someone does it because it looks.
It's through both appendixes.
Yes.
All right, anything else? All right, we will call the vote. Mine isn't going. Did you get mine?
I'm missing yours. There it is. Motion
Three
carried,
times.
5-0.
I voted 3 times. Okay, moving on to educational services consent items. Mrs. Buckmiller, any changes or additions?
Not tonight, thank you.
We have a motion to approve educational services consent items as listed under 13A through 13F.
So moved.
Second.
Patty, thank you, Melissa. Any discussion?
So I had some discussion on a particular item, D. I do that now, or do we go through each one? Yeah, I feel that my recommendation would be to pull that to gather more information, because I see where with that MOU, it still doesn't detail specifically what we were asking for from Building a Generation. It lists Boost Student Success Program without stipulating what that is, what that entails, how many would be served. I just feel like it needs more detail so that we can have an easier time holding the agency accountable to what they have committed to.
It was my understanding that each school, the two school sites, they have different needs, and they do different things at each. So I don't know if that could go into the MOU or if we have to have separate things.
Well, just like the Y put in quite a bit of information about what their programs entail.
But they do the same at all their sites, and these two schools do different things. That's why.
No, a program like a Boost Student Success Program is a program.
But they do different things at both the schools that they're at. The
Needs at each school is different.
They do different. So we'd have to have a list of like what Victoria's doing.
No,
right?
I don't think that's correct, because it's a program they're going to provide. They listed 4 services they'd provide at Victoria, and 3 at Livonia, probably based, like you're saying, on the needs of those schools. But Boost Student Success Program, what is it?
Nobody knows.
Did you look it up?
The website
doesn't. The website
doesn't say anything.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we've already. I love the concept of what they can provide. I just think that it would behoove the district to have more specifics in order to hold outside agencies accountable.
We have some information we could provide that might be helpful.
Yeah, the large problem that we had was that they were provided space on each of the campuses, their own classroom. And we were not involved with what was going on in the room in terms of, so we couldn't tell when those services are being provided or not being provided. The services that they've agreed to here, so what you see in that top list, Building a Generation provided the request of what, and each school customized which services they wanted. And then now those services are rendered in a common space. And so the principals are involved in that common space. And so there's no office or location designated on any individual site where they work out of. It's going to be agreed upon by the principal in a community space. So visibility is very high now, whereas visibility wasn't high before. The only thing missing from this is the cadence of how often they were going to be agreed upon. Now, what the principals wanted was monthly. And so that's what they're expecting, and they meet trimester to determine the specific needs. The Boost program was one of their most successful programs.
And what is that?
It's tutoring. So they provide tutoring to students after school. And when you looked at the data that they had provided, it was their most successful program that they offered. A lot of the things that we were unable to verify was those other components of when they were doing grab and goes, things like that. You'll notice it's drop-off only now, it says in there.
Yes.
Because our principals wanted to distribute those resources themselves rather than having Building a Generation deliver them on their own. And so those agreements that you see in Appendix A, or not Appendix A, but Section A, were what each principal agreed upon with the Building a Generation. What they didn't do was specify monthly, weekly, biweekly, and that was to allow flexibility to our own programs, because the schools offer different programs throughout the year, and if there's a conflict, they can move it around. And so what they agreed to do was meet every trimester to determine what those next 3 months look like. So this allowed the greatest flexibility for us.
I understand the concern.
Yeah.
And I can appreciate the accountability piece, because I think we've had 2 years of discussions as to whether or not services have been provided. We had a really good meeting with Building and Generation leadership about specific needs going into next school year. They actually have been impacted because they are not going to be on campus like Deputy Hill has explained. They also have been more communicative just in the last couple of weeks with both our principals. The reason we brought it forward at this time is we did feel like Section A does delineate the services that we've agreed that we want to see from them. We also believe that those check-ins that they're going to have with the principals are going to produce like the data that we need to see if it's happening, where we'll be able to give an update to the board even mid-year whether or not it's going well. And so we feel pretty confident also going forward with this recommendation will allow us to take action on some steps that are going to look different for the BAG, namely the offices that they're currently using that we would take back and they would have to find a different location, and then we won't have them be at any of the sites, and we can free up those spaces for those schools.
Now, I did notice in the MOU it states that they would meet trimester unless the principal changes that. So I would hope that the principals don't change that.
Well, I see that to mean that it's at least trimester. If the principals want to meet more often, that's what they would change.
And then in the description, in the agenda, it states that the services provided, I can't remember how it was worded exactly, but that services provided would be matched to the in-kind amount. How do we gauge that?
So Building Generation applies for grants, and so they have to provide matching funds. So when we provide them property on our campus, then we give them a cost of what that property costs.
Yeah, I understand.
That's the in-kind. And so they're pulling that in-kind based upon the usage of how much it costs to service that area.
No, I understand that,
Right.
but it says that their services, the cost of their services will match what we're providing to them. How would that even be?
So if the assessment of the property is
It was
$100,000, they
$30,000,
should provide
right?
$100,000 of services to us.
So
Is that
$30,000.
that's my
Right.
understanding?
Right.
And
So-
how do we confirm that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to assume that their services are greater than ours because they provide bodies on our property, right? So when like the Boost program, they have multiple people that are working with our kids. If you look at the salary that they're paying,
Well,
those
but we don't know. We don't know
Yeah.
how many staff. We don't know how many kids.
But it's not. It doesn't. The in-kind rendering doesn't benefit us at all. We're getting services to our kids and our families.
Let's just
The
take it
in-kind is
out.
for them.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
But
For them for when they get their funding.
Yeah.
I
I
understand,
think I
all
understand
of
the
that.
question is
Yeah.
whether or not it's benefiting us in the same equal.
Yes, and
matter that-
because the principals have already had to start, taking time tracking and documenting of they're getting the services, and now they're going to be in trimester meetings, which is all great if we know what we should expect.
Yeah, my hope is that Building and Generation is a little bit more proactive in terms of making sure that they're working with our sites. They have to some extent now because they don't have a location on the school that's designated for them, right? So they have to work with our principals to get that spot. And that spot is going to be designated. It could be in a classroom. It could be in a multipurpose room. It could be in a library that is visible to other staff members and visible to site administration. And so we're hoping that visibility in the program and the requirement for the Building and Generation employees to come on and off our campus, go through the front, because it's all visible now. Whereas before,
Right.
they could just kind of slip into that classroom or the space
Right.
that they had. And
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Because I know we're having a good discussion, but because this is under consent items with rather than outright pull the item, can we pull it for a separate vote? and then have the discuss. That way we can move with
Sure.
these, and you don't have to worry about voting all together with all the consent items. And then we can go back to having this discussion once we get to it as a separate action item. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
I think the idea was to vote on it with more details, but
I know,
in
but
writing.
what I'm
But I
trying
guess
to
we can't. Yeah.
Like if we're not sure that we're going to vote yes on this item, I don't want that to impact the other items that this motion has to do with. And so if we're going to not vote yes on this item, then it can be a separate item so that it doesn't impact the other consent items.
So it gets pulled and
Voted
voted
on.
separately.
Would you
Yes.
like to do that? Pull it and vote it separate? Sure. Okay. All right, so that motion is redone.
You have to do a new motion.
Pardon me?
So we're pulling that, and then we're just going to vote on all the others. Do I need to redo the motion?
Yeah, it's a motion to approve educational service consent items
Minus.
listed 13A through C and E and F.
So moved.
Second.
Is that Candy and Jeanette?
We should have.
Juan, don't we have to, because we've had this conversation before, we've already had a motion, we've already had a second, we have to vote on what's on the table.
Well, we can actually vote with an amendment. We can just amend it.
Just to clarify, the board can take however steps they want to take, but we have in the past, before, when there's been a motion and a second, somebody has said, I'd like to pull this item for a separate vote, and then we've been able to do that.
That wasn't said.
But that's the thing. But we've had discussions where there's already a motion on the table, we have to vote on it and then change
Member
it.
Wilson did say she wanted to pull the item, so that was in the initial thing she said before we even started talking. And so what I was suggesting is pull the item for a separate vote, which would be then similar to other times that we've done. The only difference is in the past when we've said pull an item, it's almost happened immediately. Then we vote on the consent items, then we go to the action item. This time we allowed for some discussion, which was relevant because we were talking about whether or not to pull the item.
I understand that. But in past practices that we've done when we want to discuss an item, every time any of us have suggested a change to a motion, you always say that we need to vote on the item, on the motion that is on the table, and then if it gets denied, then we go and proceed on. So I'm just trying to understand the process here because
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yes.
Exactly what you're saying.
Because
I'm
I would
saying
like
that
to know
this
which
is not-
ones we can
this is not
amend.
the same as that because the first thing that Member Wilson said when we went into discussion was, I'd like to pull this item.
But we didn't because that has happened before.
We hadn't finalized it. We were still trying to decide because the next step would have been, does the board want to pull that item? Before we got there, I said, just to clarify, let's pull it as a separate action item so that you can vote on the consent items that we already have a motion on. So it's not this. It didn't go the same way as other times where we've done it that way, but that's how we've done it before. In the end, as long as the board is clear on how we're moving forward, that's how we can do it.
I would just like to be clear on how we're supposed to handle these situations just because, I mean, Patty has in the past said, I'd like to pull this item and before we even have a discussion.
Yeah.
I'll move, but I'd like to pull item D for a separate vote. And if that's what we're supposed to do, absolutely. But because we are being inconsistent about it, I would just like to understand how we are, as far as protocols go, how we are supposed to be handling this because it's inconsistent.
Yeah, the only thing that was inconsistent, I believe, is that as soon as the request was made to pool, we had a discussion about it. And in the past, there would be no discussion. It would have just gotten pooled for separate action.
We just have a motion to approve educational services consent items listed under 13A through C. And E and F. That's where the motion is right now.
I have Candy make the motion and Jeanette second?
Seconded, yes.
Okay.
We'll call for the vote.
Well, discussion now.
We already discussed it.
We didn't discuss the other ones.
You didn't discuss the new motion. You should
Do
do discussion.
we have discussion on those four?
Yes, I'm just glad we're able to move forward, hopefully, with the YMCA.
I had a
the words out of my
question
mouth.
on the. I had a question on B, the College Board to administer the tests, which I think is great. But I'm just wondering. It says it'll be rolled out with the RUSD College Focus Month. Just curious, do we have a CTE Focus Month or just college?
Patty, do you know the answer to that?
I believe it's in February.
I think we do, but I don't know the month.
CTE month, I believe, is in February.
But a college, it's an RUSD. I'm just curious if RUSD has a focus month. Yeah, RUSD.
Yeah.
All right, we'll call the vote. Oh, you already did. Thank you.
Michelle, is your vote?
Oh, I don't know why that went. I voted aye twice.
Are you okay with me moving it?
Yes.
Okay. The motion is carried 5-0.
Okay, now on to 13D. Do we have a motion to approve Educational Services Consent Item 13D?
I'll move.
Second.
Melissa, thank you, Patty. All right, any more discussion on this one?
Well, in the
Can we get an extension of the 10 minutes because we've gone over the 10 minutes?
Yeah, because we started over.
could we? What would help me feel, solid about moving forward? Can the board be given the plan that the principals set up with the schools? I wonder why they didn't pick tutoring for Ligonia. Do you know?
I don't know the answer, but we can provide a plan like in the SU. If not this Friday, by
that'd be
next,
great.
as soon as we can get that information from the principals. I don't know if they're on calendar yet still, but yes, the short answer is yes, we can get that.
And it's just a 1-year contract, 1-year MOU, right?
Yes.
So I would like to be kept up on this. This is like the third time now that we're going into this, with the first 2 years just completely, the expectation has not been met, and we've given a lot of opportunities. So I feel like here we are giving another opportunity, and the services sound like they'd be good for our kids, so I like that. But I also think that we need to, I would love to be kept up, like maybe given an update in 6 months, if that's possible, from our principals, to see if everything is going as planned and whatever commitments were agreed upon, if that's possible to do, like in 6 months, so we have an idea of how things are going.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, we'll call for the vote.
Jeanette. Motion carried 5-0.
All right, under Educational Services Action Items, Mrs. Buckmiller, any changes or additions?
No changes or additions. Thank
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve Educational Services Action Item as listed under 14A through 14A through 14C?
So moved.
Second.
Andy and Patty? Thank you. Any discussion? We'll call for the vote.
Motion carried 5-0.
Under Human Resources consent items, Mr. Hill sitting in for Mrs. Bruick. Are there any changes or additions?
There is a change. I gave to you guys on the dais. There is on page 705. There was a missing word, so it should read salary step 5, comma A5 dash doctorate. So the word doctorate was missing. So I am making that change, and then you guys have a corrected sheet in front of you.
Give credit where credit is due. Okay, do you have a motion to approve Human Resources consent items as listed under 15A through 15E?
I'll move.
Second.
Melissa, thank you, Patty.
Candy. Yeah, whatever.
Any discussion? All right, we'll call the vote.
The motion is carried, 5-0.
Human Resources action items, Mr. Hill, any changes or additions?
No changes or additions tonight.
Is there a motion to approve Extended Learning Opportunities Program 2026-2027, Memorandum of Understanding between the Redlands Unified School District and the Redlands Teachers Association, CTA and NEA, effective July 1, 2026 through June 30th, 2027?
Move. Second.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Candy. Any discussion? Call the vote.
Motion carried, 5-0.
Moving on to public participation. Public comments are permitted upon submission of a completed registration card prior to the start of public participation. This is not a forum for debate. Policies concerns will be referred to the superintendent. When called, speakers may proceed to the podium, state their name and trustee area, and speak for the allotted time. The amount of time will be announced by the board president before the first speaker begins and will not exceed 3 minutes. How many speakers do we have?
2.
You get 3 minutes each.
Erico Grossman, followed by Greg Britton.
Welcome, Erico.
Happy Pride Month. I want to remind you that LGBTQ plus is not about the choice. It includes aromantic people who do not experience romantic attraction and asexual people who do not experience sexual desire. Our society often makes us believe that everyone falls in love and seeks sexual relationships, but that's not true. Now we have the language to describe these identities, and LGBTQ plus gives people a sense of belonging and the freedom to be who they truly are. Yet some still reduce it to being only about sex, and the misunderstanding is misleading and harmful. Candy and her supporters seem focused on pushing policies that would effectively out students. At times, this issue is intentionally mixed with concerns about bullying, which has been part of a right-wing playbook. I also saw Candy express excitement about the recent Ninth Circuit preliminary injunction involving California's Safety Act. But that decision was never about prohibiting schools from disclosing students' gender identity to parents. It states that school staff shall not be required to disclose a student's sexual orientation or gender identity without the student's consent unless required by law. No one's saying parents should be excluded from their children's lives. The real question is whether schools should be required to disclose highly sensitive personal information in every situation, regardless of context or potential harm. This is a very serious responsibility. After Chino first implemented a forced outing policy, Crisis hotlines saw a significant increase in calls in July 2023. 1,477 of the 4,409 calls statewide came from Chino Valley residents. According to a survey, 90% of LGBTQ young people say their well-being was negatively impacted due to recent politics. I also want to point out an inconsistency. As you know, FABA prohibits schools to disclosing a wide range of information to parents without the students' consent. Yet you have not called for schools to disclose students' intimate relationships, even while claiming your concern is student safety, sexual assault, or grooming. I'm not suggesting that you should, but this makes it clear that the focus is on singling out LGBTQ students. At the same time, some of the same people willing to overlook credible allegations involving powerful public figures. That contradiction makes it clear that's not truly about protection by children.
Thank you, Eriko. Thank you, Eriko. Welcome back, Greg.
I would again urge the board to take up the parental notification policy. It's a very important issue, and wherever you may ultimately stand on it, the members of the public, the citizens, the voters, should know where each of you stand on that very important issue. Should the schools that we pay for keep secrets from the parents? The people in the world who, in the vast majority of cases, a few exceptions, love those children the most. Not the teachers, not the principals, not the assistant principals, the parents. And to exclude them is wrong, and it is bad for the children. And the argument from the left has been that you're going to get sued. Well, even before the ruling on AB 1955, it was the policy that they're advocating, that Kennedy are advocating, of notifying parents of change in records was upheld by the court, and now the entire law, AB 1955, has been enjoined and is blocked. It is not in effect, and there's no reason for the board not to take up this very important policy. We were talking earlier about and I don't have time to go through all the data, but that the employers are not wanting to hire recent graduates because of not because so much of what they know or don't know, because of their attitudes, their poor work ethic, their inability to accept criticism. And yes, that's not entirely your fault, but you guys get the children for a huge block of time. And if a child comes to young adulthood and is not ready to have, attitude-wise, for a productive life, almost doesn't matter. Well, do they know math? Do they know reading? Do they know history? They're not going to have a good future ahead of them without those good, important attitudes that you guys should help inculcate. I've been wanting to get to this point for a number of weeks, but I'll very briefly. In a recent interview, Elon Musk was talking about college, but it applies to the K-12s. He says you don't need these buildings and professors and administrators and so on to learn anything. The information is out there, and it's only going to get more so with the development of AI that you guys are not going to be necessary to transmit information to the next generation. So where is your value added? In his book by Ernest Hemingway, The Sun Also Rises, one character asks the other, how did you go bankrupt? Gradually, and then suddenly. Well, change in institutions such as yours can happen the same way, just for your own self-interest. You need to do a better job.
Greg, thank you.
That's it.
Okay, any board member comments this evening?
I have one.
Okay.
Just thanking Jamie and Kirtan and their staff for their presentations today. And then I just want to thank RTA for inviting us and hosting us for a wonderful retirement dinner, and honoring our amazing teachers and congratulations to them, and may they enjoy their retirement in good health. And then also, just on a sad note, I just want to thank Consuelo for being such a great help to us every Tuesday. We're going to miss you, and I appreciate everything that you've done. And your Tuesdays are going to be boring now. Your Tuesday nights aren't going to be as exciting. You're actually going to get home at a decent hour. But I just publicly want to thank you for always supporting me and for what I've done and what I've asked. And I will truly miss you.
I don't have much. I'm just looking forward. I can't believe how fast the summer's going to go, but I am looking forward to the rollout of the PLCs. And I would like to start hearing more about how the rollout is going to happen and updates on how the trainings being held here is going and that kind of thing. And then also looking forward to the summer school graduation coming up. That's about it.
Yes, one thing I wanted to talk about was this super exciting parent communication guide. Here's an example. Yay. And each school will have theirs, and I have the Juan and the education department to thank. Here's a different school, different colors to match the schools. And this issue was brought up by a parent, this suggestion, Mr. Seegers, and he had difficulty figuring out who was the appropriate person to contact. And it became clear that it was quite an issue at multiple school sites that people don't understand who is your first person you're supposed to be contacting, other than the teacher, obviously, if you have a concern with the teacher. Who's the VP? What's their address? What's the principal's address? If the principal can't solve this problem and you're still having issues with your child that you're concerned about, then who's the next person to contact? A lot of times we see people not even addressing with their teacher, but jumping immediately to Juan. And like we'll see certain requests that just jump the entire line. So it would be helpful for many different reasons to actually go through the proper step and have each one has the email address, the contact information of the person that is the next up on the line, and it ends at the boss here, Mr. Juan Cabral has his email address. And I think that I've had the same issue as a parent in Redlands Unified, where I could never get a hold of the principal at all. I had major issues with my child, and I didn't know who to contact. I didn't know how to get a principal. A vice principal said, no, you're not going to talk to the principal, and I didn't know where to go. I didn't even know the superintendent was an option to contact. So this is going to be great. It's going to be posted at each school next year and also be provided to a parent that is having difficulties or wants to know, who do I talk to, who do I turn to, how can my situation be handled or addressed more properly. So I thank you guys very much, Patty. I appreciate your department doing this. And Juan, thank you. It's very helpful.
I kind of just want to echo what Patty had said, and I want to thank RTA for inviting us to their retirement dinner. I always feel, I'm always very appreciative of being invited into our staff space, because they don't have to do that, and yet they do. So it's always nice to thank them on the more personal level for all the years and most times decades of service that they've given to our students. So thank you for that. I have a question. It's not in our calendar, and I have yet to hear a date about when the admin advance is. It's not in our calendar, so I was just wondering, because I need to ask for the days off.
I was trying to avoid inviting you.
It's okay. Well, I'm coming. I'll get it from somebody else.
I have the dates. It should be in the SU. It'll be in the XSU.
Okay. Thank you. And you. Thank you for everything you've done for us. We ask way too much of you, and that's probably a reason for running away. And I'll try not to hold that against you. But I want to thank you for all the things that you've done for us to help streamline our board meetings, for bringing our online voting and making our agenda so accessible. And It's immeasurable what you've done, and I'm going to miss you greatly. So, good luck, I guess.
Well, I also want to congratulate all our retirees this year. That was a lovely dinner and a program that RTA put on, and I just want to thank them for always including the board in all the festivities that they always do, the Christmas parade, their barbecues, everything. It's really nice. I had a really good time last week at the Summer Meals Kickoff with Jason at Smiley Library. There were so many families there. I was really only able to speak to a handful. The food was great, and the company was even greater. I want to thank Medley Station for the yummy chocolate dessert that they came up with. It was quite healthy, too. So it's a great way for our students and their families to start their summer break. And congratulations to all our graduates again. I pray that whatever and wherever your next stop is, whether it's trade school, college, workforce, or military, or something in between, that you work hard, find joy, and continue to grow while making memories that will last a lifetime. On to Consuelo. Thank you. Thank you for everything you've done for me, and you probably do more for me than my family. So constantly calling you to ask you questions and help me with things. I really appreciate you. You're going to be amazing in your new job, and I hope we find somebody just as good as you. So thank you very much. And that's all I have tonight. Mr. Cabral.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I do want to say a couple of things just because I feel like our teachers work so hard, and so do our classified staff who help our teachers. And I just have to say that when we talk about academic success in our school district and we speak in generalizations, I just want to say some facts. The fact is that we continue to rise in test scores. We are not declining. I hear words like declining, and we have not been declining. And we have kids that are graduating who are passing advanced placement test scores at a rate that's higher than any other school in the nation, at 81%. And it isn't just a handful of kids. We're talking about 30% of our high school students are passing advanced placement classes. We have a large population, almost 700 students that are enrolled in dual enrollment, which means that they're taking college courses while at the same time being sophomores and juniors in high school. It is not something that we should forget. You know, our teachers who are hopefully resting this summer, and our aides who are in our classrooms, and our safety officers who are here tonight, thank you for being here, who are supporting our students, are working extremely hard, and we are being successful. Now, is it perfect? Do we need to do better? Of course we do. But I just want the public to know that the metrics are going in the right direction, and they have been for the last few years. And as a reminder, our graduation rate in 2023 was 86% and is now above 92% and climbing. And so that is important to acknowledge, and I feel as the person who is, you know, the face of this district in many ways, I'm always going to talk about how hard our people are working and the success that we are having, along with my cabinet team who's working extremely hard to support everybody, and our principals and our administrators and our managers. Okay, so thank you for listening to that. Consuelo, on behalf of us, this is your last board meeting, and it is, maybe it's not been, you know, a lengthy amount of time, but it has been impactful. I am going to miss you. I don't know how I am going to operate. I probably won't. But just to kind of point out a couple of things, you know, board meetings are, you have changed the way we do board meetings. And that is something that it will be your legacy, because it is smoother now because of the implementation of the way we do speakers and the QR code system and the ability to have a staff be here to help navigate our folks. Diligent was a move that you recommended and that you pushed and that you did research on, and it has been excellent. We've even heard compliments from the public about our diligent system. And then my goal, I had told the board even before you got here that I want to get to a system where we can online vote, electronic voting, and you made it happen. And so thank you And people don't know this, but my office is supposed to have 2 people. It's supposed to have an assistant and then a secretary that helps, because there's a lot of work in the superintendent's office. And you took on the role knowing that you were going to be by yourself, and you handled it and you did well. And I don't know if you're replaceable. I've come from HR. Everybody's replaceable. I'm not sure that Consuelo is replaceable. But we're going to try. And so thank you for choosing us for a little while. And I do wish you the very best in your next job. I hope your boss is horrible and that you will always have me as the best boss you ever had. But we have just some flowers to say thank you. It's just a small way of saying we appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
If you want. That's.
Why don't we take a picture?
Picture? Okay.
Carry your flowers.
Picture.
We'll all take a picture.
You can put it in their office.
Yeah, let's end the meeting, then we can take the picture.
Okay.
Meeting is adjourned at 8:15.